Welcome to the audio course, Discover USA. Copyright, Edgard, 2007. Lesson 1. Americanization. In this lesson, you will hear a part of a radio interview with a sociologist concerning the issue of Americanization nowadays. Listen to the recording carefully, but first, listen to the words and phrases used in this text. To develop.
Przekształcać, zmieniać.
To denote.
Oznaczać, być równoznacznym z.
To what extent?
Do jakiego stopnia?
To overturn.
Przewracać, obalać.
Ever present.
Stale obecny.
To take over.
Przejmować kontrolę nad.
A brand.
Marka.
A manifestation.
Przejaw.
A habit.
Zwyczaj.
A threat.
Zagrożenie.
Customs.
Zwyczaje, obyczaje.
Solely.
Tylko, wyłącznie.
A connotation.
Skojarzenie, konotacja.
A world superpower.
Światowe mocarstwo.
A sense.
Poczucie.
To view.
Postrzegać.
To foster prejudices.
Rodzić uprzedzenia.
Hatred.
Nienawiść.
To undertake actions.
Przedsięwziąć kroki.
A tariff.
Cło. Taryfa celna.
To require.
Wymagać.
And now, listen to the interview. Americanization typically refers to the idea of developing immigrants into Americans. But nowadays, it denotes the process of globalization of the world by the U.S. To what extent is American globalization changing today's world?
Americanization is an ever-present force in the world today, overturning other nations' cultures and traditions. We are all Americans now, like it or not, writes G. Pascal Zachary. It goes without saying that American culture is taking over the planet. Brands such as Coca-Cola, McDonald's, Nike are the icons of Americanization. Whether in Brazil or the Ukraine, people drink Coca-Cola, watch Hollywood movies, listen to American music, and eat fast food. In Sweden, there is a saying that it is the most Americanized country in the world, and that the USA is number 2.
Why do nations accept American style of life?
Well, as I see it, Americanization changes people's mentality. People see the manifestation of American culture almost daily and they get used to it. They accept American habits, traditions, and some of the holidays like Halloween or St. Valentine's Day. This causes a threat to many national traditions because people start thinking that their customs are less valuable.
But does Americanization have only solely negative connotations?
I would say that Americanization has both positive and negative connotations. For many countries, America is not only the world's superpower, but it is also a symbol of freedom and democracy.
So what you are saying is that Americanization gives other countries a sense of an American way of life?
Yes, it does. But it also changes the way Europe and the rest of the world view American life. It causes many nations to incorrectly stereotype America. It fosters prejudice and even hatred for the United States. Some people believed it caused the terrorist attacks on September 11th.
And what actions are being undertaken to slow down Americanization?
Well, countries like France or Germany are planning to raise tariffs on foreign investors, thus making it harder for American companies to dominate national markets.
And what about protecting national culture?
More and more governments require radio stations and cinemas to promote national songs and movies. For example, in Spain, at least 20% of the movies shown in cinemas must be from Spain or other European countries.
After listening to the recording, answer the following questions. Decide whether the statements are true or false. 1. Americanization results in the gradual substitution of a given culture with American culture. True or false? 2. St. Valentine's Day is now celebrated in many countries around the world. True or false? 3. The Spanish government imposed a law that the majority of the films shown in cinemas must be Spanish. True or false? 4. Most people find Americanization a positive movement. True or false? 5. Some countries are trying to slow down Americanization. True or false? Lesson 2. Fast Food Culture. In this lesson, you will hear a part of a radio interview with a specialist in American culture on the problem of fast food. Listen to the recording carefully, but first, listen to the words and phrases used in this text. To be obsessed with.
Mieć obsesję na punkcie czegoś.
To estimate.
Szacować. Oceniać.
A chain.
Sieć sklepów. Restauracji.
To fund.
Założyć.
Cafeteria style.
Stołówkowy. W stylu stołówki.
Clientele.
Klientela.
A vending machine.
Automat do sprzedaży. Napojów, jedzenia.
An outlet.
Punkt sprzedaży.
An innovation.
Ulepszenie. Innowacja.
To enable.
Umożliwić.
Convenient.
Wygodny.
Particular.
Poszczególny.
To adapt.
Przystosowywać się. Dostosować się.
Artificial additives.
Sztuczne konserwanty.
Rate of obesity.
Wskaźnik otyłości.
To contribute to.
Przyczynić się do.
And now, listen to the interview.
According to Eric Schlosser, the author of the book Fast Food Nation, The Dark Side of the All-American Meal, Americans are obsessed with fast food. Do you agree?
Well, it is estimated that at least 1/4 of American adults eats fast food every day.
McDonald's, the most popular fast food chain in the world, was founded as a barbecue drive-in in 1940. But what about the beginnings of fast food restaurants in America?
The modern history of fast food in America started in 1912 in New York with the opening of a cafeteria-style restaurant, the Automat. It created a sensation. Food was served to the clientele by means of coin-operated vending machines. Other automats were quickly opened in other cities. The second fast food outlet and the oldest hamburger fast food chain in the U.S., White Castle, was opened in Wichita, Kansas in 1921. The restaurant became known for its square burgers called sliders, which were sold for 5 cents until the 1940s. Among other innovations, the company enabled the customer to see the food being prepared.
Why do you think fast food is so popular?
Well, it's convenient and quite inexpensive. You can usually eat it without knives, forks, or plates, and you can eat it while driving.
And is the taste of the food in the restaurant chains in different countries the same in particular restaurants?
Well, restaurants look almost all the same, waiters wear similar uniforms, but to be accepted, fast food restaurants often have to adapt to local tastes. For example, at McDonald's in India, the original American taste wasn't successful, so it's been changed.
What effect does fast food have on public health?
Most ready-made food is full of salt, fat, sugars, and artificial additives. It is therefore high in calories, cholesterol, and sodium. Moreover, fast food portions are enormous. Note that the rate of obesity among American children has doubled since the late 1970s. I believe that fast food has largely contributed to these statistics.
After listening to the recording, answer the following questions. Choose the most appropriate answer according to what you have heard. 1. The first fast food restaurant in America was opened in A. 1940, B. 1921, C. 1912. 2. The first fast food chain selling hamburgers was A. McDonald's, B. The Automat, C. White Castle. 3. The taste of food in a particular fast food chain A. doesn't meet local expectations, B. is the same in every country, C. depends on local tastes. 4. Since the late 1970s, the rate of obesity among American children A. has doubled, B. has halved, C. is 2 times smaller. 5. Eating too much fast food A. has little effect on our health, B. may lead to obesity, C. does not concern children. Lesson 3. Plastic Surgery. In this lesson, you will hear a presentation on the phenomenon of plastic surgery in the USA. But first, listen to some of the words and phrases from this text. To go through.
Poddać się czemuś.
A love affair.
Romans. Fascynacja.
A recovery period.
Okres rekonwalescencyjny.
An alteration.
Zmiana. Poprawka.
A boom of clients.
Zwiększenie liczby klientów.
A word of mouth.
Poczta pantoflowa.
A tandem surgery.
Poddanie się zabiegowi operacyjnemu przez dwie bliskie osoby w tym samym czasie.
A recovery buddy.
Bliska osoba opiekująca się w trakcie rekonwalescencji.
To reverse.
Odwrócić.
A chemical peel.
Peeling chemiczny.
A breast augmentation.
Powiększanie biustu.
To be prone to.
Mieć skłonności do.
A quest.
Pogoń za. Poszukiwanie.
To be through.
Przejść przez. Doświadczyć.
A string.
Pasmo.
A tilted hat.
Kapelusz z rondem.
And now, listen to the recording. Over the past couple of decades, Americans have seemed to go through a plastic surgery love affair. Statistics show that 42% more women and 44% more men had cosmetic surgery in 2005 than in 2000. Doctors say there are several reasons for this. The main one being that technology has greatly improved, which makes surgery much easier, less painful, and with a quicker recovery period. There has also been a change of attitude, and admitting you have had cosmetic surgery is no longer embarrassing or a secret. People are proud and happy to tell family and friends about their alterations, which has led to a boom of clients through word-of-mouth recommendations. A new phenomenon has evolved where surgery has become a thing to do with a friend, relative, or partner. This has become known as tandem surgery, which has become as popular as a friend buying the same pair of shoes as you because they think they can also look good in them. The benefits of this are that the pair can support each other. More doctors actually prefer not to do surgery on the pair on the same day, as a recovery buddy is extremely useful after surgery, and then the roles are reversed. Apart from the classic nose jobs and facelifts, popular surgery includes Botox, chemical peel, liposuction, and breast augmentation. Unfortunately, plastic surgery is not without its dark side. Many people are prone to becoming obsessed with their appearance and feel dissatisfied with the result of each treatment they have. So they seek an improved look, which can become a never-ending quest for the ultimate look of beauty. It is enough to mention Michael Jackson, who has been through a string of various operations to achieve his ideal look, and now shows up in public with his face covered by a black scarf and hidden by a tilted hat. After listening, answer the following questions. Decide whether the statements are true or false. 1. 42% of American women have had some form of plastic surgery. True or false? 2. Americans are proud to tell each other that they have had plastic surgery. True or false? 3. It has now become popular for Americans to enjoy having surgery with a friend or partner. True or false? 4. The friend or partner is paid by doctors to take care of their friend or partner after surgery. True or false? 5. Many people are in danger of becoming obsessed with the pursuit for the perfect look. True or false? Lesson 4. Flower Power. Hippies in the USA. In this lesson, you will hear a part of a lecture concerning the hippie movement in the USA. Listen carefully to the recording, but first, listen to some of the words and phrases mentioned in this text. In the know.
Najbardziej wtajemniczony, mający dostęp do najbardziej poufnych informacji.
The youth.
Młodzież.
To differ.
Różnić się.
To have an influence on.
Mieć wpływ na.
Flowery.
Kwiecisty.
To focus on.
Skupić się na.
A rally.
Wiec.
To withdraw.
Wycofać.
To defeat.
Pokonać.
A commune.
Komuna.
To establish.
Ustanowić.
A recreational drug.
Substancja zażywana, by wprowadzić się w dobry nastrój, na przykład alkohol, marihuana.
Hallucinogenic magic mushrooms.
Grzyby halucynogenne.
To label as.
Określić. Nadać etykietkę.
A dropout.
Wyrzutek.
A loser.
Nieudacznik.
Annual.
Doroczny.
To gather.
Zbierać się.
To revive.
Ożywić.
Iconic.
Ikonowy.
A camper van.
Samochód kempingowy z częścią mieszkalną. Samochód turystyczny.
And now, listen to the lecture. To be hip means to be trendy, in the know. The hippie movement started in the 1960s, a time of great change and frustration for the youth of that decade. The 60s and 70s were a revolutionary period which differed so much from the formal look and behavior of young Americans of the 50s. Rock and roll had a major influence on the look of the new generation, who no longer wore pretty dresses and shirts with ties, but preferred to copy their idols, like Janis Joplin, Jimi Hendrix, and Jim Morrison, and have long, untidy hair, wear colorful, flowery clothes, and spend time meditating and focusing on how to change the world through love. A famous slogan from the hippie days is, "Make love, not war," and in John Lennon's words, "Give peace a chance." They organized rallies against war where they demonstrated on the streets of America against the Vietnam War. The world media covered these demonstrations widely, and the hippies put a lot of pressure on the American government to withdraw from Vietnam. The American defeat in Vietnam was seen as a victory for the hippies, as for the first time the leading nation could not defeat a weaker country. This pushed the hippies to promote their mission for peace within the states. Hippies preferred to live in communes, reject any established religious rules, and live simplistically and minimally. many hippies participated in recreational drugs such as marijuana, LSD, and hallucinogenic magic mushrooms. Society criticized hippies and labeled them as dropouts, meaning people who chose to quit the social norms and were seen as losers. However, by the early 1970s, hippies were generally accepted members of an alternative society. Music featured as a major part of the hippie culture, with idols such as Jimi Hendrix, Bob Dylan, and Eastern music from India. This was such a part of the movement that huge concerts were organized and are still an annual event today, such as Woodstock. 1967 became known as the Summer of Love, when 75,000 hippies gathered to share music, drugs, and philosophies. In the UK, a New Age movement in the 1980s revived many of the hippie philosophies, and these folk travel around the country in iconic VW camper vans and live the hippie lifestyle which was formed nearly half a century ago. After listening to the recording, answer the following questions. Choose the most appropriate answer according to what you have heard. 1. The generation of the 60s and 70s differed from the generation of the 40s and 50s by A. Their hate of rock and roll, B. Their appearance, C. Their interest in other countries. 2. The hippies' attitude towards the Vietnam War was A. Positive, B. Indifferent, C. Negative. 3. While living in communes, hippies A. Enjoyed luxurious goods, B. Became deeply religious, C. Experimented in taking drugs. 4. By the 1970s, hippies were A. Rejected by society, B. Accepted by society, C. Punished by society. 5. The hippie movement started in Britain. A. Before the 1980s, B. During the 1980s, C. After the 1980s. Lesson 5. American Cowboy. In this lesson, you will hear a part of a radio broadcast discussing the presence of cowboys in the United States. Listen to the recording, but first, listen to some of the words and phrases from this text. A philosophy on life.
Filozofia życiowa.
To reflect on something.
Zastanawiać się. Dumać nad czymś.
To fall into.
Przynależeć do jakiejś kategorii. Grupy.
The latter.
Ten drugi. Ostatni z wymienionych.
A ranch.
Rancho.
Wrestling with cattle.
Jedna z konkurencji zawodów rodeo polegająca na przewróceniu cielaka tak szybko, jak to tylko możliwe.
Rough.
Szorstki, chropowaty.
Lean.
Szczupły, chudy.
Well worn.
Znoszony.
A lumberjack.
Drwal.
To top off.
Zwieńczać.
Fearless.
Nieustraszony.
A cow herder.
Poganiacz bydła.
Mean.
Złośliwy. Wredny.
To mess around.
Obijać się.
A policy.
Taktyka.
Rugged.
Szorstki, surowy.
A hunk.
Przystojniak.
Actions speak louder than words.
Czyny znaczą więcej niż słowa.
An idealism.
Czczenie. Idealizowanie.
A storyline.
Akcja. Fabuła.
To hold the common theme.
Mieć wspólny wątek.
A walkway.
Pasaż.
To feature.
Prezentować.
Effortlessly.
Bez wysiłku.
A thread.
Tu wątek filmowy.
To finish off a drink.
Dopijać drinka.
To complement.
Uzupełnić.
A closing scene.
Ostatnia scena.
And now, listen to the recording.
A cowboy was once asked what his philosophy on life was. After reflecting on this for a while, he replied, "There are three sorts of people: the ones who learn by reading, the few who learn by looking, and the rest who have to touch the electric fence for themselves." Without a doubt, the cowboy falls into the latter category. So, who are the cowboys, and what qualifies a man to be called a cowboy? Cowboys are always ready for action, be it in rodeo, on the ranch, or wrestling with cattle. They are rough, tall, and lean, wear well-worn jeans and dusty boots and a lumberjack shirt, all topped off with that classic dirty cowboy hat. You may ask why a cowboy is always dirty. The simple answer is that a cowboy is a working man and work is dirty and tough. Confident horse riders and fearless cow herders, they speak 1,000 words with one mean look. There is no messing around with a cowboy. For him, everything is black and white, and of course honesty is the best policy, even if it does upset the ladies, in which case the rugged outdoor cowboy turns into a sweet and romantic, lovable hunk. To be classified as a cowboy is easy. After all, actions speak louder than words. Movies are the greatest source of cowboy idolism, with such stars as John Wayne and even Dean Martin. The storylines often hold the common theme of fighting the Indians and, of course, winning. Once those became less politically correct, movies were set in the Wild West, in dusty, deserted towns with wooden-decked walkways along shops and, of course, saloon bars, where most of the action takes place. Any classic cowboy movie features a bar fight with cowboys picking up drunken, insulting men effortlessly with one hand and throwing them along the bar while finishing off their drink. The aggressive thread of the movie is always complemented by the cowboy falling in love with the town's beauty, and the closing scene ends with the cowboy holding his love tightly in his arms and kissing her passionately against the setting sun.
After listening to the recording, answer the following questions. According to the text, decide whether the statements are true or false. 1. Cowboys learn by looking and reading. True or false? 2. It is rare to find a clean cowboy. True or false? 3. Cowboys do not tend to say what they think. True or false? 4. Cowboys do not enjoy being romantic. True or false? 5. Cowboys in films nowadays prefer falling in love to fighting Indians. True or false? Lesson 6. Rock and Roll, a cultural phenomenon. In this lesson, you will hear a part of a radio documentary presenting the history of rock and roll. But first, listen to the words and phrases that appear in this text. A phenomenon.
Zjawisko, fenomen.
To evolve.
Ewoluować.
To feature.
Cechować.
A backbeat.
Rodzaj rytmu. Popularny w latach 60. i 70.
A blend.
Mieszanka.
To perform.
Wykonywać.
To approve of.
Pochwalać. Akceptować.
Naughty.
Nieprzyzwoity.
To introduce.
Wprowadzić.
A falsetto.
Falset.
An anthem.
Hymn.
A flower generation.
Pokolenie dzieci kwiatów.
To reject.
Odrzucać.
To advocate.
Popierać. Być zwolennikiem.
Unprecedented.
Bez precedensu. Niespotykany.
An impact.
Wpływ.
A genre.
Gatunek. Rodzaj.
And now, listen to the recording. Rock and roll is not just a form of popular music. It is a cultural phenomenon. It evolved in the United States in the late 1940s and dominated American music in the early 1950s. Classic rock and roll features vocals, electric guitars, an electric bass guitar, and a strong backbeat. Other instruments, such as the saxophone and the piano, are common in some styles. Rock and roll was inspired by jazz, blues, and gospel. Some even call it a blend of black rhythm and blues with white country and western. The first rock and roll hits were performed by Bill Haley, Chuck Berry, Little Richard, Elvis Presley, and Roy Orbison. The music, first popular in small clubs and on the radio, quickly became a new wave of popular culture. However, not everybody was excited about this music. Many parents did not approve of suggestive dancing, naughty lyrics, and loud beat, and did not let their children listen to it. But teenagers loved this new kind of music. With the new music came new styles of dancing. Elvis Presley introduced new moves and concepts to dancing. In fact, his dancing was so new and controversial that they would not allow it to be seen on television. On the other hand, Little Richard's singles featured his boogie-woogie piano and falsetto scream. One of his songs, Tutti Frutti, still has the most inspired rock lyric on record. A wop babaloo bop, a wop bam boom. He inspired artists such as Michael Jackson, Kiss, and James Brown. In the late 1960s, rock music changed. Many songs became the anthems of the flower generation, which rejected the established culture and advocated extreme liberalism in politics and lifestyle. New bands like the Grateful Dead, Santana, Janis Joplin, and Jimi Hendrix were introduced. Rock and roll had an unprecedented social impact. It influenced lifestyles, fashion, and language. And although music genres constantly evolve, the great rock and roll stars will live forever in the hearts and stereos of rock fans. After listening to the recording, answer the following questions. Decide whether the statements are true or false according to what you have heard in the recording. 1. In the 1950s, rock and roll revolutionized popular music culture. True or false? 2. Rock and roll was inspired by genres such as jazz, blues, and gospel. True or false? 3. Rock and roll was first popular on television. True or false? 4. Rock and roll was enjoyed by people of all generations. True or false? 5. The flower generation rejected established institutions and advocated peace. True or false? Lesson 7. Slavery in North America. In this lesson, you will hear a part of a radio interview with a sociologist concerning slavery in America. Listen to the interview, but first, listen to the words and phrases used in this text. To enslave.
Uczynić niewolnikiem.
Slavery.
Niewolnictwo.
To engage in something.
Zająć się czymś. Zaangażować się w coś.
To ship.
Transportować. Przewozić drogą morską.
To estimate.
Szacować. Oceniać.
Of African descent.
Pochodzenia afrykańskiego.
Forcibly.
Pod przymusem.
To constitute.
Stanowić.
Due to.
W związku z.
Overcrowding.
Przepełnienie.
To rebel.
Buntować się.
To commit suicide.
Popełnić samobójstwo.
To jump overboard.
Wyskoczyć za burtę.
To enhance.
Poprawiać. Ulepszać.
Exploitation.
Wyzysk.
To perform work.
Wykonywać pracę.
Vital.
Konieczny, niezbędny.
Growth of industry.
Wzrost gospodarki.
A laborer.
Robotnik, pracownik.
A domestic servant.
Służący.
To put away money.
Zaoszczędzić pieniądze.
To provide medical care.
Zapewnić opiekę zdrowotną.
Harsh labor conditions.
Trudne warunki pracy.
Humanely.
W humanitarny sposób.
The death rate.
Śmiertelność.
Malnutrition.
Niedożywienie.
It's common practice to do something.
Jest na porządku dziennym coś robić.
To ban.
Zakazać.
To permit.
Pozwalać.
To prohibit.
Zabronić.
American Civil War.
Wojna secesyjna.
To abolish.
Znosić. Prawo, zakaz.
An amendment.
Poprawka. Do przepisu.
And now, listen to the interview.
African Americans had been enslaved in what became the United States since early in the 17th century, when slavery was a well-established institution.
That's right. Slavery existed for centuries before the first slaves came to America. When Europeans came to Africa, slavery there already existed. In fact, most slaves were bought by Europeans from other African people. The British, Dutch, French, Spanish, and Portuguese all engaged in the African slave trade.
How many slaves were shipped from Africa during the period of North American slavery?
The number of Africans brought to the New World during the period of slavery was phenomenal. No one knows the exact number, but some researchers estimate that about 10 million people of African descent were forcibly transported to America. By 1860, slaves constituted more than half of the population in some southern states.
How long was the trip across the Atlantic?
Some trips took 1 month, and some up to 5. Nearly half of them died during the passage from Africa due to overcrowding, minimal diet, and epidemics. Some people rebelled or committed suicide by jumping overboard and drowning.
The wealth of the U.S. was greatly enhanced by the exploitation of African American slaves. What work did they perform?
Slaves were always vital to the growth of industry. The majority of slaves lived on plantations and worked as laborers growing cotton, sugar, rice, and tobacco. In many households, treatment of slaves varied with the slave's skin color. Lighter-skinned slaves worked as domestic servants and had better clothing, food, and housing. Some slaves working in cities managed to put away enough money to buy their freedom.
Slaves were a very expensive investment, which were fed, clothed, housed, and provided medical care. But the treatment of slaves varied depending on which colony they lived in.
Exactly. Slaves in southern colonies typically worked under harsh labor conditions, while slaves in the Middle and New England colonies were fewer, had more freedom, and were often treated more humanely. In general, however, the death rate among slaves was high. Malnutrition, chaining, torture, murder, and rape were common practices despite certain legal protections.
In 1807, the British Parliament banned the Atlantic slave trade. Not long after, the United States banned it in 1808. But for many years, the country was divided into states permitting slavery and states prohibiting it.
Well, the abolition movement began in the 18th century. Many slaves were freed during the American Civil War, but it was only in December 1865 that slavery in the USA was finally abolished by the 13th Amendment to the Constitution. After listening to the recording, answer the following questions. Choose the most appropriate answer. 1. The institution of slavery, A, already existed before the discovery of the New World. B, was fairly established in Africa in the 17th century. C, was not supported by European countries till the 18th century. 2. How many slaves were shipped to the Americas? A. The exact data is not known. B. Less than 10 million people. C. More than the population of all the states combined. 3. Where did the majority of slaves work? A. In mansions. B. On plantations. C. In the cities. 4. Slaves in southern colonies, A. Were treated more humanely than slaves in New England. B. Worked under hard conditions. C. Never outnumbered the white population. 5. When was slavery abolished in the USA? A. In 1807. B. In 1808. C. In 1865. Lesson 8. Immigrants to the U.S. In this lesson, you will hear a part of a lecture on immigration to the USA, delivered by a media expert. First, listen to the words and phrases used in this text. To combine.
Połączyć.
A permanent resident.
Osoba zamieszkała gdzieś na stałe.
An estimate.
Kalkulacja, szacunek, wycena.
An illegal refugee.
Nielegalny uchodźca.
To flee from something.
Uciekać przed czymś.
A native country.
Ojczyzna.
To make up.
Stanowić.
Hispanic.
Tu latynoski.
To put forward a proposal.
Złożyć. Przedstawić propozycję.
To range.
Mieć zakres. Zasięg.
A temporary work program.
Program pracy tymczasowej.
To perceive something, somebody as something.
Postrzegać kogoś, coś jako.
A burden.
Ciężar. Utrudnienie.
To strengthen.
Wzmacniać.
Strains on the healthcare system.
Obciążenie systemu opieki zdrowotnej.
Regardless.
Niezależnie od. Bez względu na.
A provision.
Przepis. Klauzula.
An amendment.
Poprawka. Do konstytucji.
To grant.
Przydzielać. Nadawać.
Citizenship.
Obywatelstwo.
To be on an equal footing.
Być w takiej samej sytuacji. Mieć równe prawa.
To dare.
Ośmielić się coś zrobić lub rzucić komuś wyzwanie.
A frontier.
Granica.
Now, listen to the lecture.
The number of immigrants in the U.S. is larger than ever before in history. The U.S. currently accepts more legal immigrants as permanent residents than the rest of the world combined. Estimates show that the average number of immigrants that enter the U.S. every year is 800,000. The number includes illegal refugees who typically flee from poverty and unemployment in their native countries. Top 10 sending countries are Mexico, with 173,753 immigrants in 2006. China, Philippines, India, Cuba, Colombia, Dominican Republic, El Salvador, Vietnam, and Jamaica. Mexican immigrants make up to 37% of all recent immigrants. In fact, it is estimated that by 2050, 1/4 of the population in the U.S. will be Hispanic. Numerous proposals have been put forward regarding illegal immigration. Ideas range from requiring all illegal immigrants to go home, introducing temporary work programs, to legalizing the 12 million foreigners living and working in the U.S. illegally. Yet, American society remains largely divided in its perception of immigrants. On the one hand, newcomers to the U.S. are believed to strengthen American society. And on the other, they are perceived as a burden to the country, taking jobs and creating strains on the healthcare system. Regardless of their legal status, immigrants are protected under some provisions of the 5th and 14th Amendments of the U.S. Constitution. The 5th Amendment provides guarantee of due process, while the 14th Amendment grants citizenship to every child born in the U.S. regardless of the citizenship of the parents. Now, let me quote President John F. Kennedy, who called America a society of immigrants, each of whom had begun life anew on an equal footing. This is the secret of America, a nation of people with a fresh memory of old tradition who dare to explore new frontiers.
After listening to the recording, answer the following questions. Choose the answer which best fits what you have heard. 1. The majority of immigrants in the USA come from A. Cuba, B. Mexico, C. China. 2. Estimates show that by 2050, 1/4 of the population in the U.S. will be A. Chinese, B. Caribbean, C. Latin American. 3. Most immigrants come to the USA A. For economic reasons, B. For political reasons, C. For ideological reasons. 4. The number of illegal immigrants in the U.S. amounts to A. 800,000, B. 12 million, C. 173,753. 5. The list of top 10 countries sending immigrants to the USA includes A. Nicaragua. B. Honduras. C. El Salvador. Lesson 9. San Francisco. In this lesson, you will hear an episode of a radio documentary on the most impressive American cities. This part concerns San Francisco. Listen carefully to the recording, but first, listen to the words and phrases used in the text. Awesome.
Niesamowity.
To hike.
Wędrować pieszo.
Hilly.
Pagórkowaty.
To be abundant.
Być obfitującym w.
A bay cruise.
Rejs po zatoce.
Tough.
Surowy.
A penitentiary.
Zakład karny. Więzienie.
Rough.
Wzburzony.
To hail.
Okrzyknąć.
A vicious criminal.
Niereformowalny przestępca.
To confine.
Ograniczać. Oddzielać. Zamykać.
Maintenance costs.
Koszty utrzymania.
To wander through.
Szwendać się. Włóczyć się.
Awe.
Respekt.
Harsh.
Surowy.
To be up for something.
Być chętnym.
Light-hearted.
Wesoły.
A wharf.
Nabrzeże. Przystań.
To pack the streets.
Wypełniać ulice.
A vendor.
Sprzedawca.
To peruse.
Przeglądać.
And now, listen to the broadcast. San Francisco is one of those awesome cities which you can easily journey on foot, as long as you don't mind hiking up and down the hilly streets. Restaurants, shops, museums, historical attractions, and tours are abundant in choice, and there are tons of places to visit around the city. Among some of the best tours include Yosemite National Park, Alcatraz, Golden Gate Bridge Bay Cruise, Sonoma and Napa Valley wine tours, dinner in Chinatown, followed by a walking tour of the city, or how about checking out the local talent at Monterey, Carmel, or Pebble Beach? As part of your week in San Francisco, we offer tours to the best attractions, starting with an unforgettable tour to one of the toughest penitentiaries in the world. Alcatraz, also known as the Rock, has been feared by most since the 1930s. Surrounded by rough and ice-cold water, it was hailed as inescapable. Life on the Rock was reserved for the most vicious criminals, where they were confined to single cells. Prisoners spent day and night alone with no one to talk to, and did not even share meals together. The prison was shut down in 1963 due to overly high maintenance costs, and since then, tourists have been allowed to wander through the grounds in awe over the harsh environment. If you're up for it, you even get the chance to spend a minute locked up in a dark cell. For something a little more light-hearted, why not make your way down to Fisherman's Wharf? This is where tourists pack the streets filled with souvenir shops, cafes, sidewalk seafood vendors, and restaurant after restaurant. Otherwise, there's Chinatown, where you can sample delicious, colorful dishes and enjoy the atmosphere of the U.S.'s second-largest Chinese district. Chinatown is abundant in tiny shops open for tourists to peruse or buy handmade souvenirs. A tour of San Fran wouldn't be the same without a cruise around the Golden Gate Bridge Bay with amazing views of one of the world's longest bridges you're sure to remember for years. After listening to the recording, answer the questions. Decide whether the statements are true or false, according to what you have heard. 1. San Francisco is not an easy city to discover on foot. True or false? 2. Alcatraz is no longer a functioning prison. True or false? 3. Tourists can share their meals with the prisoners of Alcatraz. True or false? 4. San Francisco has the biggest Chinese district in America. True or false? 5. It is recommended that tourists take a boat trip around the bay. True or false? Lesson 10. Los Angeles. In this lesson, you will hear a conversation between a citizen of Los Angeles and a tourist. Listen to the recording, but first listen to the words and phrases that are mentioned in the text. Populous.
Ludny.
Non-white.
O innym kolorze skóry niż biały. Kolorowy.
To constitute.
Stanowić.
Hispanic.
Latynoski.
To found.
Fundować. Zakładać.
Natives.
Rdzenni mieszkańcy.
A basin.
Basen. Dorzecze.
The world's total supply.
Całkowite światowe zapotrzebowanie.
Bustling life.
Gwarne życie.
Popular entertainment.
Masowa rozrywka.
To learn.
Dowiedzieć się.
Entire.
Całkowity.
And now, listen to the conversation.
Well, I read a lot about Los Angeles before I came here.
Really? Have you found any interesting facts?
Oh, yes, quite many. I read that Los Angeles is the most populous city of California and the second largest city in the United States. The population of Los Angeles County is about 70% non-white, and Hispanics constitute 44% of the whole population.
Yes, it's true.
I read somewhere that the city was founded in 1781 by a Spanish governor, Felipe de Neve. It was named El Pueblo de Nuestra Señora la Reina de Los Angeles. But the history of Los Angeles goes back to the Tongvas, the true Los Angeles natives.
Right. They lived in villages around the Los Angeles basin. And did you know that for over 20 years, LA belonged to Mexico?
Oh, really?
Yes, it became part of the United States in 1848 when the Mexican-American War ended.
That's interesting. And I read that in 1892, oil was discovered in Los Angeles, and it became a center of oil production. By 1923, the region was producing 1/4 of the world's total supply. During World War II, the city became a financial and industrial giant producing aircraft, ammunition, and other war supplies.
Exactly. And how do you like Los Angeles' bustling life?
It's great, though it's a bit crowded here in summer.
Yes, they say that 24 million people come to Los Angeles every year for their vacation.
Wow, that's a lot. But the city offers numerous attractions. I heard that it is the world leader in producing popular entertainment, and it has more than 80 stage theaters and 300 museums, more than any other U.S. city.
Right. And have you already seen the Port of Los Angeles, also called Worldport LA?
No, I haven't, but I can't wait to see it. I was really surprised when I learned that the Port of Los Angeles is the busiest port in the entire United States and employs over 16,000 people.
I'm sure you'll find it impressive.
After listening to the recording, answer the questions. Decide whether the statements are true or false according to what you have heard. 1. Half of the population of Los Angeles is non-white. True or false? 2. Hispanics constitute 70% of the population of Los Angeles. True or false? 3. At some point in history, Los Angeles belonged to Mexico. True or false? 4. Los Angeles is a popular holiday destination. True or false? 5. The city is one of the world's most important economic and cultural centers. True or false? Thank you for listening to the audio course Discover USA. For more information about other audio courses and computer programs for learning foreign languages, visit our website www.językiobce.pl.